day everyone, welcome back to Everyday Dynamic Solution. Today we'll be treating our Cambridge past question as we have been doing. Now what we'll be treating today is paper 2 on business studies, still on May-June 2023. In our previous video we have treated the paper 1 of this May-June that we are picking today. Question 1A, we have explain 4 barriers to communication for a business. Have you ever heard of that topic before? A communication? What do you understand by communication first, and what do you think can be a barrier to communication? Of course, I can see you are trying to remember the meaning of communication. It is a transmission of information from sender to receivers. Of course, you are correct. Now, what do you think can be the barriers between sending and receiving information? The first problem is problem with the sender. Now, how does this serve as a barrier to communication for a business? Problem with the sender. Of course, the language used by the sender, let's write it out also. The language used as the explanation. Of course, the question says you should explain, and after picking out the point, you have to develop your explanation for it also. The language used by the sender might not be clear to the receivers, or it may include jargons not understood by the receiver. Now let us move to barrier 2. What other barrier do you think can come in when we are transmitting an information? Of course, we still have the problem with the medium and method used in sending the information. The what? The method or medium used. The method used in sending the information. How does this serve as a barrier to communication? Of course, when the wrong method is used, when the wrong method is used, like let's put an example, like putting an urgent message on notice board. Of course, when a message is an urgent, it can be seen immediately when we put it on notice board, rather than sending it as a text or an email. It will be what? It may not be seen immediately because it is an urgent message. It may not be seen immediately. That is when they use wrong method in sending information. Let's try to that here. You have to put your explanation. Now, another barrier is computer failure, or let's say internet connection. Now, let's put the explanation of the computer failure as a barrier to communication. Let the text be here. It will be somewhere here. The message may not be received. The message may not be Message may not be received when there is no internet received. It may not be received when there is no internet connection or internet failure. Internet failure. We also have too long messages. When the message is too long for the receiver to reach, it can also be a barrier to communication. Let's try to drag this. Now, the fourth barrier I just mentioned now is too long what? Too long messages. Too long message. Too long message. Now, how can you express your own opinion on too long messages when we are dealing with barriers in communication? When too much details is included in a message, the message, the main meaning, of the message, may be lost, in the details. Of course, when we have too many details included in the message, the main purpose of sending the message might be lost inside the details if it is not carefully written. Other barriers like language differences, problem with the receiver also, and when no feedback is given. Now let us move to question 1B here. We have another question here. It says, consider the following two ways VP can purchase its inventory. Which way should it use? Justify your answer. Of course, this VP has a summary of its business we were given separately. Let us go through this thing for just 2 or 3 minutes and come back to answer this question. Here we have the summary of the appendix given to us relating to VP company that we just read about. Here we have VP was started 10 years ago in country Z. It's a public limited company. VP has a chain of 500 fast food restaurants that operates across country Z. The VP brand is famous for its vegetarian food. This means none of its meals contain meat. I hope you are noting something down here, because we are going to use this statement to answer our question. Now, VP has a head office in main city where all the director and senior managers work. There are many barriers to communication. Each VP, we are even done with the barriers to communication. You can see that it is also here. Each VP restaurant has a manager, an assistant manager, and 50 employees who cook and serve the meals. Restaurant managers are often very busy, and they are considering delegating some of their tasks to the assistant manager. The ingredients for the restaurants are ordered in bulk by head office and then distributed from its warehouse to each of the restaurants. However, some senior managers think that restaurant managers should purchase their own ingredients from local suppliers. This will mean the ingredients will be fresher and will allow variation in the meal served. If people want to expand into another country, it will choose between the two countries shown in Appendix 2. Of course, we are going to be there, but not now. Appendix 2. VP will also need to decide how to enter a new market in another country. It has the option of forming a joint venture with another business or franchising the VP brand. The choice of finance will need to be considered for the expansion, and the amount of finance will depend on the option choosing. Now, this is the Appendix 1. We just read down. Now, let us move downward to the what we have here above this picture. Choose VP for the final. This is just the advertisement text. Now, before we move to the appendix 2 we have here, before we move to this, now let's answer the question 1B here. Consider the following two ways VP can purchase its inventory. Wow. In what we just read now, we have two ways in which VP is purchasing their inventory. Now, by head office purchases or the restaurant manager purchases their own inventory from local supplier. And after giving out your point, which way do you think VP companies should be using when purchasing their inventory? Now, let us pick out some points here. By using the head office to purchase the inventory, of course, they will be able to buy in bulk, They'll be able to buy in bulk, which possibly reduced the price and increase their profits. That is the first point, by using head office to purchase their inventory. Now, another point is easier to standardize the meal control and quantity. Easier to standardize the meals quantity and the quality. Quality and the quantity. The meal quality and the quantity. To reduce this, let's pick another point before we move to the second one. Of course, there will be increase in transport cost when they are using their head office to purchase the inventory. Now, let's pick this out also. Increased transport cost for the food ingredients. To be taken to each fast food restaurant. Though this is an application of what we went through. Restaurants, yes. Restaurants. Now let's reduce this also. Now, we have seen main 3 points of using a head office to purchase inventory by the vegetarian palace, VP. Now let's move to using restaurant manager. What do you think can be the advantage, or what do you think can be the limitation of using restaurant manager to purchase the inventory from local suppliers? Of course, manager can order different ingredients. Let's try to pull out the test. Okay. Manager can order different ingredients to meet their local taste. Of course, when the restaurant manager are purchasing their own inventory from the local supplier, they will be ordering different ingredients to meet the local taste of the consumer, which can improve demand and increase revenue can improve and increase the revenue. Now let us see another point of using restaurant manager buying stock from local supplier. Another one is local supplier can deliver more frequently and quickly than using head office. Now, of course, that is right. They are more quickly and frequently delivered rather than using head office. Local supplier can deliver more quickly and frequently, which can automatically increase the reputation of the business, which increased the reputation of the business. Yes, that's another point. Another point is some ingredients may not even be available locally to each restaurant. That is one of the limitations for using the restaurant manager rather than using the head office in purchasing the inventory. Now let us try to put the point out before we give our recommendations. For using the two ways in purchasing the inventory. Some ingredients may not be available locally to each restaurant. Yes, it may not be available to each restaurant. Now that we have seen the point in using managers, the restaurant managers or the head office to purchase the inventory, which of the ways do you think VP can be used to purchase its inventory in order for its business to perform effectively? By using head office to purchase their inventory, let us try and write the two recommendations for both ways and see which ways would be the best for VP to choose. By using head office, VP will be considerable in cost saving and leads to what? Repetition here. And leads to keeping price low, which will increase its revenue. Can increase its revenue. Let's try and reduce this. Of course, by using the head office, it will be the best way for VP to choose, as it will allow him to consider cost saving due to the purchasing economic of sales And let's continue further here. Order only from the local suppliers may make it difficult to meet the demand of the customers, demand of the customer. That is by using head office in purchasing the inventory and ingredients for fast food. Now let's see when VP is using each restaurant manager. Yes, let's add the text and put the recommendation here. Okay, by using restaurant manager, it will be best for VP to meet the customer demand, and this will attract customer, and this will attract customer it will attract customer and also leads to revenue leads to an increase in revenue. Let's put it that way. It can also lead to an increase in the company revenue. Now, which way do you think VP could use while choosing between the two ways in purchasing their inventory? Of course, the two-way has its own benefits and limitation, and the two-way can actually be chosen. The two ways can actually be chosen. Of course, when using head office, it can be quicker and faster in delivery for the company, which make them to deliver what customer wants immediately. And also by using the restaurants can also make them to meet the local demand that will attract customer, and that can also increase their revenue. Now let us move to the next question that we have here. We have question 2A. Explain two advantages and two disadvantages of VP's restaurant manager delegating tasks to their assistants. Of course, what we read here earlier, if we go back to it, let us try and still fill it once more and see where the manager is delegating the tasks rather. Now let's see. We have it around somewhere here. Let's see. Let's see. Is it around here where they are delegating work to their yes, it is here. Restaurant managers are often very busy and they are considering delegating some tasks to the what? To the assistant manager. Now, back to the question here. We're told to explain two advantages and two disadvantages of VP restaurant manager delegating tasks to their assistant. What do you think can be the advantages of delegating tasks to assistant manager? You have to bring out your point and also put an explanation. The advantages The first advantages here is it reduced workload. It reduced workload for the manager. It reduced workload for the restaurant manager. This is the first point, and let us try and develop the point. Let us try and develop the point in order to have our full mark. Now, it will help the manager to focus. It will help the manager to focus on the most important tasks. Of course, when they are delegating tasks to the assistant manager, it will reduce the workload. They will not carry the job out themselves. So therefore, it reduces the task load from the restaurant manager. Yes, it will help the manager to focus on the most important tasks at what? At the restaurant, as the restaurant, at the restaurant, and it enable them to make better decision. Let's try and fit this in. Now, what other advantage do you think by delegating tasks by the restaurant manager? It will be an advantage to the VP restaurant business. Of course, giving the restaurant managers time to access employees' performance, it gives time, let us say it gives time for them to access employees' performance. Let's put it that way before we can explain further. It gives time to the manager to access employees' performance. Employees' performance. Now, that's the second advantages here. It gives time for the manager to access employees' performance. Now, how does this serve as an advantage? How does this serve as an advantage to the VP restaurants business? Of course, they'll be able to identify where an employee need more support. Let us try and write out the explanation also. Let's try and write the explanation out. Let's try. Okay. The manager will be able to identify where need employees needs more support. Of course, they will have more support in the restaurant business. Let's put this as the application. Restaurant business. Now, that is for the advantages. We were told to explain two. Other advantages might be the assistant manager that will develop new skill also to the business. Now let us move to the disadvantages that we were told to mention also. One of the disadvantages is restaurant manager losing control over the subordinates. Let us try and put the disadvantages somewhere here. Let's reduce this to avoid confusion. Let's reduce this to avoid confusion. For the disadvantages, yes, manager losing control over subordinates. Manager losing control over the subordinates. Of course, this might be a disadvantage to them because mistake may be made which can lead to the reputation of the country. Let's see subordinates. Yes. Now let's try to write the explanation based on the first disadvantages that we have here. Based on the disadvantages that we have here. Mistakes may be made which leads to worse reputation. Which leads to worse reputation if the food served is longer than 5 minutes after ordering. You can see you are wondering where this 5 minutes comes from. Of course, it is from the appendix given to us in this question, which I've shown you before we start answering this. We were told that their food is served 5 minutes after ordering. Now, when the manager is delegating the task to the assistant manager now, there is possibility that the food will be served longer than the 5 minutes of ordering. Now, another disadvantage that may occur here is when the manager is not having the skills to carry out the task. Now let us put the text. Let us put the text. Okay. The point I just mentioned now is the assistant manager may not have the skills to carry out the task as it is delegated to him. So it could lead to what? It could lead to poor decision. It could lead to poor decision being made since the assistance is unskilled. Now, just let us drag this below here. That's our advantages and disadvantages of delegating tasks by the manager. Now, we also have other disadvantages to be not even like the task by the assistant manager, or by delegating the task, the restaurant manager may be reluctant. Now let's move to the next question. Here we have question 2B. They said we should use appendix 2 and other information to consider two countries VP could choose to locate its new restaurants. Of course, I said we are still coming back to this using of appendix. Now let us move to where our appendix is. Let's try and see the appendix 2. Let's try and see the appendix 2. Here we have the summary of the two possible countries that VP could choose to locate its new restaurant. Now, in country A, we have to look at the benefits and the drawbacks that choosing the company might cause for VP. Now, here we have the raw materials, we have the labor, and we have the market. In country A, we have the average favorable cost to be $6 per meal, and in country B, we have the average favorable cost of $2 per meal. For labor, in country A, we have low unemployment, which is $10 per hour for each employee. And in country B, we have high unemployment, and each employee is being paid $5 per hour. Now, for the market now, we have many competitors in country A, while we have few competitors in country B. And the average price per meal in the market for country A is $20, and for country B it is $10. Now let's use this to compare which country is best for VP to choose, that is the vegetarian palace, to choose to locate its new restaurant. Before we could choose this, we have to know the benefits of choosing the country A and the limitation of choosing the country A at the same time, and also we do for country B before we can make our recommendation. Now let us move back to our question now. For country A, as we all see, gross profit will be 14 for them, and country B will be 8. How do we get that? Let's go back to here where we have the average cost. Let's go back to the place where we have average cost. Our average favorable cost rather for country A is $6 per meal, and the average price per meal is $20, as we all know, like this. No, so the gross profit for the country A will now be the subtraction of the $20 and $60, which gives us what? $14. And for country B, we should have $8, that is the average favorable cost per meal deducted from the average price per meal. Now let's bring out the first point to base on their gross profit. For country A, yes, we have the first comparison for locating the new restaurant in country A. The gross profit is what? Is $14, as we calculated together now. And country B is what? And country B is $8, and country B is $8. That's our first point of VP choosing country A. Now let us move to another point here. Let's try to put this here. What other point do you think we have here? We have many competitors here. Let us see and try to pull out our point for choosing country A. For choosing country A, many competitors, many competitor in country A may indicate high demand for fast food restaurants. Of course, yes, when there is many competitor, when there is many competitors there, it may indicate that there is high demand for the fast food restaurants. When there are a lot of people selling the kind of goods, that is, people that are demanding for the goods, there are many competitor indicates there is high, let's say indicated that there is high demand for fast food restaurant. Fast food restaurant. That's another point for choosing country A in locating the new restaurant in country A. Another one is the highest price per meal that we are seeing here. The highest price per meal here we have $20 can also lead to possibly highest revenue if the demand also remain high. Let us try and write this point out also. Just try and write this point out also. We haven't seen the limitation of choosing country A, but we are moving to that. Let's just pick 3 points for this and also go for the limitation. Let's try and reduce this because we still need more space to put the limitation. Now, the third point here we are mentioning is the highest price per meal. The highest price per meal. Yes. The highest price per meal, highest price per meal will possibly what? Will possibly remain high if the demand is also remain high and can give them their high revenue. That's one of the benefits. High price per meal at $20 at $20. It can possibly be their highest revenue. Can be the highest revenue if the demand remain high. And that is true. If the demand still remain high, their price there can lead to their own highest revenue. Let's try and reduce this. Can we name this as the benefits to country A before we move to the limitation? Let's see how it goes here. Let's put the benefits here. Benefits. Now let's just stop with these 3 points for the benefits and look at the limitation of choosing country A in locating the new business. Now the limitation, or you can call it the disadvantages. Limitation. What are the limitations that you also think in choosing country A it will cause a limitation to VP? Of course, in country A there are too many competitors. One of the limitation is the more competitor may require VP to reduce their price in order to attract their customer. Let's try to pick it out. Too many competitor may require VP to reduce price, which leads to a reduction in the revenue, Of course, this is one of the possible limitation that can occur when you are choosing country A for the location. And also, as there are too many competitors, the VP might need to spend more money on marketing. Let's try and write the point out also. After giving the 3 points for country A, now let's move to country B. may require more money on marketing due to many competitors. Of course, you have to market your goods to the extent to the awareness of people in order to sell more than your competitor. And also, high wages costs are twice because country B may also lead to higher costs. As we have it here, we have low unemployment, so you have to pay more in country A than country B. You have to pay more, of course, when there is low unemployment. Let's try and put the point out here also. Let's put another one point here too before we move to country B. High wage cost. Let's say it leads to high wage cost as there is low unemployment in country A. Wage cost. Let's try and reduce these two. Now, after giving the benefit and limitation for choosing country A, for the location of the new restaurant. Now let's look at what benefits and limitation comes from choosing country B too. Using the appendix given to us also, let's go back to it and let's see how we can compare country B to country A. Here we have the average favourable cost for country B also. We have their own lowest favourable cost per meal, that is $2 compared to country A, $6 per meal. Now let us write the first point out as the lowest favourable cost per meal. Country B has the lowest favourable cost per meal at $2 rather than $6 in country A. Now let's go back to our sheet and write the first point out based on the benefits of choosing country B as the location. Country, they have what? Let us put it in a sentence for our own better understanding. They have lowest favourable cost per meal at what? At $2 compared to $6 in country A, compared to $6 in country A. That's one of the benefits of choosing country B while choosing the location for the country. Let's try to reduce these two to contain what you want to put here. Another point is let us see the appendix here. I think they have high unemployment. Their high unemployment can also be a benefit to them. How? Let us see how we can put the point here too. They have how their high unemployment can be a benefit to them. Of course, it will make them to recruit new employees for the restaurants. Let us try the high unemployment. The high unemployment makes it easier for them to what? to recruit new employees for the restaurant, employees, this is employees for the restaurant. Let's try and reduce this. You can give another one benefit of choosing country B before we move to the limitation. Now don't let us forget to name this also before we cause confusion for ourselves. Now, this we are just listing the benefits of choosing country B. Now, what other points do you think can be an advantage of choosing country B? Of course, lower price of 10 mil, as we have here, they have the lower price per mil compared to the average per mil of country A, which is $20. It can attract many customers. As we know, many of us like our roof. Now, let us try and bring out the point here too. Let's try and write out the point. Lower price at $10 per mil can do what? Can attract customers, and also lead to an increase in their revenue, and also leads to an increase in their revenue, when choosing what? When choosing country B. Now, what do you think can be the limitation of choosing country B also? Of course, as we have the benefit of choosing country A and B, we also have the limitation of choosing it. Now, let's try and put the heading and see the limitation of choosing country B by using our appendix given to us. But before we go back to our appendix, let's try and fix this out. Limitations of choosing it. Here, what do you think can be the limitation here? Of course, we have, as we mentioned in country A, where we have the gross profit of country A to be $14, the country B will be lesser than country A. Their gross profit will be minimal. That is, we have $8 for the country B on gross profit. Here, that is the first limitation I think we have. Now let us try and drag here to type. Their gross profit, the gross profit will be lower compared to country what? Country A, compared to country A. Let's try and reduce this. Now, another disadvantages here or limitation, let's see the appendix. What we also have here, we have the few competitors. How does this few competitors be a disadvantages of choosing country B? Now let us see. When having few competitors for the vegetarian fast food, what does that imply? Of course, it may indicate low demand in the market. Let's try and write the point out also. Let's try and put it out. Our text should be here. Now, few competitors may indicate may indicate lower demand for fast food restaurants. Of course, this can be a disadvantages too. It can be a disadvantages of choosing country B, as the VP needs to spend on market research in order to be sure that there is a market in country B, rather in country B. Now let us leave the benefit and limitation of choosing country A and country B, and let us see what recommendation we can give to VP when locating the company, when locating the restaurant between control A and control B. Which one do you think it should choose? Of course, you have to give recommendation based on country A and country B. Now let us choose for country A first. For country A, why do you think VP should choose country A rather than country B? Why do you think they should choose country A rather than country B? Let's try and give little explanation here before we move to given recommendation for country B. Before we move to VP should choose what? Should choose country A. Why do you think? Because why do you think you should choose country A? Because e can charge what do you think e can charge? Highest price of the $20 per meal. That can lead to what? Can lead to high revenue. Can charge the highest price per meal, highest price per meal, which may actually lead to what? It may actually lead to an increase in its revenue. Let's not use is supposed to be its revenue, because it's name of the company. Its revenue. Let's try and reduce this. Okay, because we are evaluating we are not evaluating to an entity. Let's try and reduce this. Okay, VP, you think VP should choose in country A because it can charge the highest price per meal, which may lead to an increase in revenue. Of course, yes. And why do you think country B should not be choosing? Why do you think country B should not be choosing? Of course, it will be an alternative of this first point. Country B should not be choosing. That is when we are still considering country A should not be choosing because it has what? It has lower price per meal. Now that is for country A. Now let's see any recommendation that we can give in considering country B. Now let us move to country B now. Country B. Let's put our country B here and see what recommendation we can advise VP to use. Country B. Okay. VP should choose. Let's try and write this out also for better explanation. Our text should be somewhere here. Why do you think VP should choose country B? Okay, let's say VP should choose what? VP, it is VP, there is a mistake here also. VP, vegetarian palace. Yes, vegetarian palace. VP should choose what? Should choose country B. Should choose country B. Why do you think country B should be chosen by VP? Now, looking to this appendix now, what, according to the advantages we choose for country B, one of it is paying lower wages when there is high unemployment. That should also be a recommendation, because what? Because it has to pay lower what? It has to pay lower wages, has to pay lower wages, and it will also easy to recruit new employee as there is high unemployment. It will also be easier to recruit new employee as there is high unemployment in country B. That is our recommendation for VP in choosing both country when relocating the fast food restaurant. Now let's see another question we have here. Let's move to another question. Moving to another question here, we have question 3A. Explain 2 reasons why VP want to expand. Why do you think VP will want to expand his business to another country? According to the appendix here, we read about VP trying to expand to another country, to somewhere around here, to expand to another country. Yes. Now let's try and answer this question accordingly. We're told to give one reason and one explanation for it. Now, the first possible reason why VP might want to expand his business is to gain higher profit. Let's try and write the text. To gain what? To gain higher profit. To gain higher profit, and that profit, it is surely belong to the owner. Now, how does this serve an explanation of him wanting to expand his business? Okay, because of what? Because, let's try and write the explanation underneath here also. The explanation: to gain higher profit because of what? Because expansion will lead to an increase in revenue. Of course, expansion do lead to increase in revenue because the owner will sell his product in more markets. The owner will sell his product in more markets, to lose to an increase in revenue. What other reasons do you think might be considered when VP want to expand its business, what other reasons do you think can be of interest to VP while expanding business? Of course, it might also be to lower the average cost. Let's try and put the reasons here also. To lower the average cost, that is the average unit. To lower the average or unit cost. Average or unit cost. Now let us give the little explanation here in order to attain our full mark. For each point and each definition here, you have your full mark here. Now let's give the explanation. How does the lower average unit cost, how does it serve as the reason why VP want to expand into another business? Of course, it could. Let us try and push the space for test. Let's try and push the test. It will help them to gain from economic of scale. It will help, let's use VP to gain from economies of scales. Now, shorter, like buying in bulk of the ingredient. Of course, we have been mentioning these economies of scale frequently. Gaining from economy of scale, like bulk buying of their food ingredients. Of course, and when buying their food in bulk, discount will automatically be received. Now, other reasons might also include to gain larger share of the market, or to gain prestige, or to gain access to the new market. But we're told to just mention two and give the little explanation. Now we move to the next question here. Question 3B. Consider the benefits and limitations of the following two ways VP can enter new market in another country. Which way should VP choose? Now, what are the two ways given to us by the question? We have joint ventures and we have the franchising. Using the appendix given to us, we were told that joint venture and franchising is the two way VP can enter a new market. Let's see if this is true. Of course, we should have it somewhere around here. Yes. It has the option of forming a joint venture with another business or franchising the VP brand. Now, before you can answer this particular question, I think you know what joint venture means and you know what franchising means. Before we look into the benefits and limitation of each, before we look to the benefits and limitation of each, joint venture is coming together of two business owners in order to develop one project. You think that is right? Of course, that's the correct definition. And franchising, you should know what the meaning is also. Now, let's move straight forward to the benefit of joint venture and the limitation. Where do we start with? When VP is entering the new market in another country. Now let's see the benefit of joint ventures and at the same time the limitations. Let's pick the benefit first. The benefit, yes. The benefits of agreeing on working on a project. Of course, VP will share the risk and cost of setting up his business. Let us type the first point out. At least we should give three points for the benefit and also the limitations. VP will what? We share the risk and cost of setting up the fast food business as the application implies. Let's try and reduce this. Of course, when VP is entering new market through joint ventures, VP, it will share the risk and cost of setting up the fast food business in another country with its partner. Other benefit is being gain important local knowledge. Let's try and write that point out also. To gain important local knowledge. Okay, let's say it helps VP, helps VP to gain what? To gain important local knowledge about the market, about the market. Let's try and reduce the size of this text to minimize our space. Now, it will help them to gain important local knowledge about the market because it will be easier to focus mainly on local tastes, and this can do what? It can increase the demand of the consumer and the revenue. And when entering new market by using joint venture, we also lower the risk of entering new markets. Let's see, when you are joining hand with another business to work on one business, it will also lower the risk of entering new market overseas. Let's use overseas. How does that serve as an advantage? Of course, it is more likely to understand local custom and states that will adapt to fast food meal to meet the local demand. Now, after we have seen these 3 points of benefit, let's see what the limitation could be when joint venture is being used. Now, let's write the limitation out to avoid confusion for us. Limitations. What do you think can be the limitation of joint ventures according to the definition of joining hand with another business to form a single business for profit making? Of course, the first one is the time and effort that it will take to find the right partner to join with. It will take time. Let's say it will take time and effort to find the right partner to join with in the venture. Find to join with in the venture. That's one point. Another point is the profit that will be shared between the partners. Another limitation, of course, when you are two in a business, you are to share the profit equally or according to what it is contributed. Profit will profit will be shared, will be shared. Profit will be shared. Now, what other point could you think do you think can be a disadvantages of this joint venture? Let me guess, what are you saying? What I have here as the next disadvantages that I would like to mention here is the resources not being equally shared between the two partners. Let's try and put the point out also. The resources might not be shared equally between the partners, or let's say between the two partners, the resources. Now let's reduce the size also. The resources might not be shared. Now we have discussed the benefit of joint venture here and the limitations. Now let us move to the franchising. Now, what do you think of the second way, franchising, the benefit and the limitation? Now, as you know, the definition of franchising to be the agreement between two person or business in order to use the brand name of another company. Now, what do you think the benefit and the limitation could be? Let's see the benefit first before we move to the limitation. The benefits, let's try and put the points out. I think we also have to give our recommendation down here too. One of the benefits of franchising is this time saving. Let's try and write some points out here. It saves what? It saves time of expanding, into the foreign market, because the business that will be operating will be the one that will make the investment. Now let's see another advantages. Let's try and reduce this. Let's try and reduce this and pick another point. Of course, franchising needs a lower capital requirement. It doesn't need to raise finance for the expansion since you are using another brand image based on an agreement or having the right to use it. It required lower capital to expand. Require lower capital to expand. Now another point or another benefit of franchising is the payment from franchise fee. The payment from franchise fee is used for the VP brand. That means the fee can go back to VP business. Let's see. The third benefit is the franchise fee being paid to VP. Franchise fee. That is, franchise fee will be paid to VP and will increase its profit. Of course, it will increase its profit. Let's try and reduce this to contain the limitation. Now, let us go through the limitation of franchising. Let's try and put the heading of the limitation here before we pick out the points. The limitation, let's see, limitation, yes, the limitations of franchising. Of course, the first limitation is the poor management, poor quality management of the franchise or the franchisor, franchisee rather. Yes, poor management, and this could lead to bad reputation for VP brand. It could lead to bad reputation for VP brand when there is poor quality management. Another limitation is the low level of control by the director of VP. Let's try and write this out also. Low level of control. Low level of control by VP director, that is the vegetarian palace directors. Of course, over how the franchise operates the vegetarian fast food chain. If there is low level of control, it can also be a limitation to the franchising business. Another limitation that can occur here, what another limitation do you think of? Of course, the franchisee has information about the food ingredients, and how does that serve as a limitation? The recipe VP is using, they use this when the franchise agreement has expired. Yes, let's try and write some points out here also. When, let's see how to put down this in order to have our mark. When what? When the franchisee is aware of the food ingredients of the fast food, rather, yes, let's use fast food according to the application. Fast food ingredient, it could develop what? It could develop a competitor. It could develop a competitors. It could develop, this develop. Yes, let's try and reduce this. Yes. Now, what recommendation can you give based on this benefits and limitation above? Is it forming a joint ventures that will be the best way to overcome the problem of entering new fast food market for FIPI, or selling the franchise to business in the new fast market? Now let's try with the forming a joint venture. Let's try and put this here. Forming a joint venture might be the best way of overcoming the problem of entering new markets. The problem of entering new market. Why do you think forming a joint venture will be the best way? Because in another country which FIPI is unfamiliar with, it will enable the FIPI to understand the new market by gaining knowledge. Let's say it will enable FIPI to understand what? To understand the new market, by gaining what? By gaining knowledge. Of the market. Let's try and reduce this to put our second recommendation. Yes. And to the second recommendation of the selling franchise to business. Let's try and write the point also. Let's try and write the point to get our full mark. Here you have to give your recommendation. Selling what? Selling franchise to business in the new market can also be a best way. The new market can also be a best way to expand. How does that be a best way? Selling franchises to businesses in the new market can also be a best way to do what? To overcome problem of entering new markets. Why? Because it will reduce the investment required to expand. You have to give your reasons. Because it will reduce the investment required for VP to expand in the new market. Let's try and reduce the size of this for proper arrangement. Now, that is that on the recommendation for the franchising and joint ventures. Now let us move to the next question here, which is question 4A. In question 4A, it says, explain using an example one reason why VP might need short-term finance and long-term finance. Why do you think VP will use short-term finance and long-term finance? Now, what do you understand by short-term finance and long-term finance in the first way? Short-term finance is the use of credit that is repaid in 1 year, while the long-term finance is repaid more than a year. That is, the short one is paid back within the accounting period. Now, one of the reasons why VP might need to use this short time finance is to provide working capital for the business. Let's put the text to provide, and don't forget you have to explain your point using one of the example of short-term finance and long-term finance. Now, to provide what? After giving your reasons, you have to develop the point. To provide working capital for the business. Now, to provide working capital for the business. Now, let's put the explanation also by using one example. To provide what? To provide working capital so that day-to-day expenses will be paid for. Now, example of this, after giving your brief explanation, we have an overdraft, we have trade credits. You can use any one of your choice to buttress your point. Now let's use an overdraft. An overdraft may be suitable for day-to-day expenses as it is only used if needed. Of course, it is used if needed. This overdraft also reduce the interest paid. Now, another one is just to prevent cash flow problem. But we're told to give one reason and use an example to buttress our point. Another one is to prevent cash flow, as I said earlier, to improve the cash position. Now we have long-term finance. Now, why do you think VP also use long-term finance? Of course, it can also be to purchase long-term assets, non-current assets, or fixed assets. Let's say to purchase what? To purchase long-term non-current assets. Non-current asset. That is also known as fixed assets like land, equipment, etc. Now, after giving them this, Why do you think long-term finance is used to purchase, is used as a long-term finance? Let's try and put the explanation here. Let's try the explanation out. We all know that assets might be expenses. Let's say as the assets are likely to be expenses, expensive rather, expensive. So what's long-term finance can you use in this situation? Of course, we have bank loan, we have leasing, hire purchase, and a lot more. So let's use for purchasing long-term loan asset, a long what? A long-term loan, a long-term bank loan may be what? May be suitable because it is because of because it will be repaid over a long period of time, because it is repaid over a long it is repaid over a long period of time, which can reduce the amount paying monthly. It reduce the amount paying monthly. Now, after explaining your point, given one of the example according to how we are instructed by the question, let's move to the next question here. We move to question 4B. It says using appendix 3 and other information. Where is our appendix? Of course, it is here, the one we are filling before. Now let's see where our appendix 3 is. Here we go. Now this shows an email from VP's managing director to VP's marketing director. Now to VP, now that's an address from and where it's coming from. The date is also there and the reference to where it's going. Economic changes in country Z. Did you see the news this morning that interest rate will be raised from 3% to 5% later today? This will have several effects on our business in country Z. The news also said that the exchange rate in country Z has depreciated. We will have to consider how this will affect our business, especially as we import 30% of our ingredients into country Z. There are also new legal control being introduced that mean we have to list all the ingredients used in each of our meal on the menu. We do reprint menus every time we change the meal, but it is something to consider. Speak later today. This is a mail from who? From VP's managing director to VP's managing directors, to VP marketing director rather. Now we were told to use this appendix 3 to answer question 4B. Now let's go back to the question entirely. We were told to consider how the three changes, that is the increase in interest rate from what percent to what percent to 3% to 5%, and the depreciation of country Z's exchange rate, and the new legal control that is being introduced, that is require all restaurants to list the ingredients in their meal. Now, how do you think increase in interest rate will affect control Z? Now, the first one is, let's try to put the space of text. and bring out some points that can be of effect of increase in interest rate. We have fixed higher fixed cost from interest paid. Of course, we will have higher fixed cost from interest paid if the bank loan took out for expansion of the restaurant chain in another country. This will lead to lower profit. This will lead to lower profit. Let's try to reduce this for more points. Now, what other effect can increase in interest rate cause in country Z? Of course, it can also be an effect for customers also. Customer may buy fewer meals as the interest rate is increased from 3% to 5%. Now, customers will buy what? Will buy fewer meals as the interest rate being increased for 3% to 5% to be paid. Of course, that is also an effect of the increase in interest rate. Of course, its increase in interest rate will also increase the interest received on the earning reserve. I think that serves as an advantages to the business, right? Okay, let's close the text. Let's add the third here and let's move to the next point. Let's move to the next point. Increase in interest rate will lead to an increase. Let's use will lead to an increase in interest received on any received by P company. Now, let's use an increase in interest rates. Yes, let's start with these 3 points first and move to the next point. Now, how does depreciation in the exchange rate, that is depreciation in the foreign exchange rate, how do you think it will affect the country Z also? Of course, the first point is the imported good will now be cost. It will cost more. Yes, let's try to write it out as we just mentioned it. Now, the imported food will be what? The imported food ingredient will cost more. Let's use will cost more. Ingredient will cost more, and possibly what? It will possibly reduce the profit margin. Possibly reduce the profit. Let's say the fee piece profit margins. Yes, of course, it will reduce the profit margin, and this increase will automatically lead to VP changing the purchase from local supplier. Now, the second point here, let's try to drag this. The second point here, this space for the text. Okay. Now, the second point here, after putting our text, how the depreciation in the exchange rate might affect country Z according to the email we received from the VP manager. Profits will be sent back to country Z when VP has expanded to another country. Let's put it this way. It is an advantage to the business though, but it is just one of our valid points here. Profit will be sent back to country Z, country Z when it has expanded to another country. But this also has its own disadvantage because capital needed for the expansion will be exchanged at a lower rate, that is, higher investment will be needed. Now let's go to the next point here where we have the new legal control which require all restaurants to list the ingredients in their meal. Of course, the introduction of new legal control will also have its own effect. Now let's see the first effect here. What do you think we should write there? Of course, it will increase the cost of rewriting all the menu because they are going to rewrite all what is needed according to the new legal control. Increase in the cost, increase in the cost of rewriting what? Rewriting all menus. It will take time to work out the list of the ingredients in the meal, so it will need to be repeated most of the time. Now, and this new legal control can also have an effect in country Z because the competitiveness may not change as the restaurants will have the same cost. Let's try to put it somewhere here. Competitive may not change. Yes, competitiveness may not change. Competitiveness may not change as all restaurants will have what? They will have the same cost. We have the same cost. We have the same cost, all restaurants. Now let's reduce this. Yes. Let's reduce this and let's put one more point before we move to our conclusion. Of course, introducing this new legal control may lead to lower demand. How does this lead to lower demand? Let's try and write this point out first. Let's try and write it out. It may lead to what? It may lead to lower demand, or the sales may lead to lower demand, the sales. And when there is lower demand, it may lead to lower demand, and it will also lead to what? It will lead to reduction in profit, to a reduction in the profit. Of course, it will lead to lower demand when people want to keep the same markup on their own cost. Now, to give the conclusion for these three effects: demand may lead to lower demand and reduction in the profit. Let's try and change this to capital letter. Okay, now let's move to the conclusion here. The effects of interest rates and the depreciation of exchange rates, and also the new legal control introduction rather. Now, using the increase as an example now, increase in interest rates, as we said earlier here, let's try and put our recommendation based on our point here. As this increase in interest rate will have the effect on the profits. Let's see how we can construct our conclusion here. The first conclusion, based on the interest rate increase in interest rate will have the greater. Why do you think this will have the greater? Of course, it might not be the greater effect. Those three have their own greater effect on the profit. Why does this interest rate has the greater effect on the profit of VP? Because of what? Because VP will need what? VP will need to take bank loan to finance the expansion when it cannot meet up with the increase in interest rate. Because VP we need to do what? We need to take out bank loan to finance the expansion and increase. Okay. Now let's move to the depreciation now. Depreciation might even have little effect because the ingredients are only a small proportion of cost. They are only a more proportion of cost. Let's try and bring the points out here also. Now, moving to the depreciation. Now, how does this depreciation of the exchange rate also have greater effect on control Z? Depreciation of the exchange rate of country what? We are dealing with country Z. We also have the greater effect the greater effect on profit because 30% of food ingredients are what? Are imported. 30% of food ingredients are what? They are imported to the company. Now let's move to the new legal control that is being introduced. Let's try to reduce this to put the recommendation. Okay, I think we are good to go. We are good to go here. Remain D for the last recommendation. Of course, the new legal control also, we also have a greater effect. New legal control also has its a greater effect on profit. Also has a greater on profit because what? What do you think can be the reason why the new legal control also has an effect on profit? Because it requires all the restaurants to provide information about their ingredients in their meal. All the restaurants to provide information. Let's not use the information. Provide information about the ingredients in their meals. That is, they will have to be repeating it, which makes it to be an additional cost for them, which makes it to be an additional cost to them. Let's see if we still have, okay, I think we are done with this paper. This brings us to the end of this past year question for paper 2, May June 2023. Kindly subscribe to our channel to see more of our videos. See you in our next video. Bye.